Hi, I would like to thank everybody for joining our meeting. I hope that my voice is clear and everybody hear it. Welcome to Skyline Tours Zoom meeting. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Amr Al-Halli, to talk about Egypt and how to sell Egypt and what is the possibilities we have to sell Egypt. So number one, if you see the map of Egypt, all our clients are coming. Make it bigger, please. Okay, are arriving to Cairo. In Cairo, we have more than one full day. 10 years ago, we have 2 days was very enough for Cairo to have pyramids day and city day. But right now, from Cairo, you could make pyramids and the new Egyptian Museum, the Grand Egyptian Museum, and Saqqara, Memphis. In another day, you could do also the city tour of Cairo with the other museums, plus Islamic Cairo, Khan al-Khalili Bazaar. And from Cairo, you could go 200 kilometers north of Cairo to Alexandria to visit Alexandria, or you could go to a very nice oasis called Fayoum, oasis for 1 day too. It's about 90 kilometers. So after we arrive to Cairo, because we have like a different itinerary you could sell in Egypt. I will talk about the classic itinerary first, and then we'll talk about the other possibilities we could do. So after you finish Cairo, you could fly to Aswan. And in Aswan, you could have a hotel or you could have a Nile cruise. The Nile cruise starts from Luxor to Aswan. We have 3 itinerary of the Nile cruise. If you have to have 7 nights cruise or 4 nights cruise, that means you have to fly first to Luxor. If you need to have a 3 nights cruise, then you have to start from Aswan. There is not a big difference between the 3 itinerary, but why we do Aswan Luxor in 3 nights? Because we sail with the water, not against the water. That's why you could sail faster. So, but we have the same itinerary, but maybe in the 4 nights and 7 nights cruise, we have a fluka ride on the Nile. That's it. And also, a lot of people would like to have the short cruise of Aswan Luxor in 3 nights, because if you finish up your cruise in Luxor, you could drive 200 kilometers to Mediterranean Sea to Hurghada. And Hurghada is in Mediterranean Sea where you could relax a little bit and for 3 nights, 4 nights, there is a lot of luxury hotels there. And then you go to Cairo to fly to Cairo, to fly back home. So that's the normal itinerary we have in Egypt. And as I told you, you could have Cairo with 7 nights cruise, or Cairo with 3 nights cruise, or Cairo with 4 nights cruise. But as a Skyline, we have a very special things from the next year. Like we fly from Cairo to Siwa, and from Cairo to Siwa, it's about 800 kilometers. You could drive there to Siwa in about 15, no, in about from 8 till 12 hours. It's about, yeah, it's independent of how the rest you are doing. But we are flying from October this year from Cairo to Siwa in 1 hour. We have a small flight of 40 seats, and we fly there every Thursday for 3 nights. And we are the only company who do this program, and you will know the everything about Siwa from Dr. Amr later on. Also, was a special thing we have in Egypt that we also fly from Cairo to Saint Catherine, and this flight it's about more than 1 hour, and we could fly there and spend 1 night. So we see the Santa Catherine cluster, and you could also spend some time at Sharm el-Sheikh. So that's the itinerary. The last itinerary we could do, that we go from Cairo to the White Oasis, and there is more than 6 oases near from Cairo, not like Siwa, like Bahariya, Dakhla, Kharga, and so on. And we end the trip in Luxor or in Aswan, as you wish. So that's what you are doing, and I will let Dr. Am speak first about, we go to north to the Siwa and the trip there, and then about the rest of the sites. Dr. Amr, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you. This is a great opportunity for me to be with Yasser. Yasser and Skyline has been really wonderful in the past few years, on how they handle tourists from all over the world, but especially the American market in general. Actually, when he asked me to talk about how to sell Egypt, this is a very interesting thing, because which Egypt are you going to sell? Because Egypt has got something for everyone. Me personally, I've been a tour guide and a tour manager for almost 36 years this year. And I must say I'm very lucky. I've been everywhere in Egypt. So which Egypt are we going to talk about today? I'll try to give you a brief idea in relation to what Yasser was just saying. Egypt, of course, the classical thing is that Egypt has got 7,000 years of history, which everybody knows around the world. You study about it in every history major or every history class, starting from the 3rd, 4th grade around the world. You study about Egypt and the civilization of Egypt. Egypt has got a great history, that's for sure, but that's one layer of Egypt, because Yasser was talking about arriving to Cairo. When you arrive to Cairo, Cairo has got the most famous archaeological sites in the world, the Great Pyramids of Giza, because Giza is part of Cairo. So when you are in Cairo, you have 2 things, or actually more than one thing. I'm talking about 2 of the most famous things in the world. Of course, the Pyramids of Giza, and of course nowadays, which are 4,800 years old. And now you have the greatest museum in the world, the largest museum in the world, the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is really a masterpiece in museology. And especially this year, in a matter of few months, by the 3rd of July this year, it's going to open. It has been delayed quite a few years, actually. It's not like La Sagrada Familia in Spain, which has been delayed for 140 years or so, but we're hoping ours has been delayed for almost now 10 years. due to many circumstances, but it's the $1 billion museum. It's the largest museum in the world, and it's going to house for the first time the complete collection of the boy king, King Tutankhamun, which really left us, a great treasure of his daily life artifacts that he loved using and he wanted to keep with him in the afterlife. So we have over 5,000 objects made of pure gold, they're gilded with gold, and Atelier Bruckner, a very specialized German company in museology, is the one in charge of making the display in the Grand Egyptian Museum. So it's going to be something really amazing. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be something really worth coming. And I know it's in the minds of everyone to see those two marvels, the Pyramids of Giza and King Tutankhamun. So you get a chance to do that in Cairo. Besides, of course, you can actually go and see the Jewish, the Christian history of Egypt over here, because Egypt, of course, is mentioned in every religious book. So you'll find something about Egypt in Judaism, in Christianity, and of course in Islam. So from a religious or a spiritual point of view, you can also sell Egypt as a spiritual journey as well. And that's all in Cairo, just in Cairo. We're talking about Cairo Museum, the old museum, which is an antique itself. It's over 100 years old. The Tahrir Square Museum, the first cement building in Cairo. And besides all that, you have some great Islamic monuments. Some of them are unbelievable. There is nothing like them, anywhere else in the world, where people who want to see the Middle East history, they want to see the Islamic history. You have Sultan Hassan Mosque. It's really an amazing building. You have the Islamic Museum in Cairo. You have the Coptic Museum in Cairo. You have the Ben Ezra Synagogue. So you have so much to sell. But let's talk in general. The basic thing is that you're talking about the Giza pyramids. You're talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum. Besides that, as Yasser was saying, you can do one day maybe Saqqara, the oldest stone building in the world, more than 4,800 years old, the first stone building in the history of mankind. And besides Saqqara, you have also a chance to see maybe the citadel of Saladin and hear the story of the Crusades in Egypt also over here, and the part that Egypt played in the Crusades wars in the medieval times. This is all just Cairo. By leaving Cairo, you can go to Luxor and Aswan, which is the classical tour as well. You can go to Luxor to see the amazing Valley of the Kings, where you can see the tomb of King Tutankhamun itself, which was discovered in 1922 by Carter. You can see the tomb of Seti I, which is an amazing tomb as well. And was the scenes of the sky and the ceiling over there is unbelievable. It had an amazing sarcophagus made of alabaster, nothing like it in the world. But unfortunately, it was taken out of Egypt, and it's in Sir John Swain Museum in England. You can see also many other tombs in the Valley of the Kings. You can see the amazing temple of Queen Hatshepsut, where we can talk about the role of women in ancient Egypt, which is something really amazing, especially in the time when Egypt was a great kingdom and a great empire in the 18th dynasty. That's about 1500 BC. Because if you think about it, that's the beauty of Egypt as well, the continuity of the history. If you look at, when you think of the Great Pyramid in Giza, it's 2800 BC or 2600 BC, I'm sorry. Then when you think of Tutankhamun, it's 1300 BC. So that's 1300 years later. And still Egypt is great. And even actually in the time of Tutankhamun, Egypt is a great empire that ruled the world, the known world at the time. And that's why it was very rich and able to live in the tomb of one boy king who ruled at the age of 9, died at the age of 17, to leave inside his tomb 5,000 objects made of pure gold or gilded with gold. Besides the West Bank, where you can see the West Bank of Luxor, which you cross the river to go to the West Bank of Luxor. This is where you see the Valley of the Kings and the Temple of Queen Hatshepsut. You can see the colossal statues of Memnon, unbelievable size statues, 21 meters height, over 1,000 tons of one block of limestone, something unbelievable over there. You can also go to the East Bank of Luxor, where you see the Temple of Temples. There is nothing like it in the world. It's a temple of Karnak, or the temples of Karnak, which you can spend either classically a couple of hours, or you can spend a lifetime wandering around the temple over there. It's an unbelievable place, the greatest colonnade on earth, 134 columns, towering over 6 to 8 meters height, with the representing the lotus flower, the bundle of the lotus flower, or the lotus flower flourishing in the papyrus, plants flourishing and so on. It's unbelievable, made 3,300 years ago. Something unbelievable was the colors and so on. It's really nothing like it all over the world. You get to see the Temple of Luxor, the Temple of King Ramses II, maybe one of the most famous kings in the history of Egypt, the man who built something everywhere in Egypt. Wherever you go in Egypt, you find the name of Ramses II. This is just Luxor. Of course, to go to Luxor, you can either go, as Yasser is saying, just to Luxor, maybe drive to Aswan. That's one thing you can do. And in this case, you can visit a couple of temples on the way from Luxor to Aswan, Edfu and Komombo. These are Greco-Roman temples. Or maybe take a cruise, because that's something that is really very beautiful. And that's always been the classical image of Egypt, seeing Egypt by the Nile. Egypt and the Nile has been always a great combination. It's been, the two things were always tied together, Egypt and the Nile. Even though the Nile, we are sharing it with 9 other countries. We're 10 countries, or actually 11 now with the South of Sudan. We're 11 countries sharing the Nile between us. But Egypt has been always the most famous one that has been always tied with the Nile. So we, from 4,000 miles of the Nile, we have over 1,000 of them in Egypt over here. From our borders with Sudan in the south, all the way to the Mediterranean, and we always lived by the Nile. So doing a cruise on the Nile, especially, or as Yasser always loves to do as well sometimes, for special groups, if you have a split group of family or friends together, that is really wonderful. You can go on a dahabiya, which is really something unbelievable. You can go on a dahabiya, which is really a small boat that has got a sail. It uses it sometimes, or we use a tugboat to drag it behind it, and it's very luxurious. It's wonderful. It's very small. It's very low as well. So it's almost like you're taking a walk by the side of the Nile. And it takes longer time in sailing. You take your time, you enjoy the scenery, you're enjoying the daily life scenes of the countryside of Egypt. So it's really magnificent. You get also to enjoy the sleeping the night, next to the countryside and so on. So it's really beautiful and nice, tranquil, and it's really from a bygone era, let's put it this way. You do the dahabiya, you get to see also Luxor, and you get to see the temples of Edfu and Komombo. Then you are in Aswan, the very African part of Egypt. Because as I said, Egypt has got more than one thing. Besides the historical part, which is Egypt, the pharaonic or the ancient Egyptian, which is from 5000 BC to 331 BC. We're talking almost 5,000 years of ancient Egyptian civilization. That's the dahabiyas. Yasser is showing you some of the dahabiyas we have over here. Some of them are very luxurious, and they are really fit for kings. And by the way, when you do the dahabiyas, or if you have a group of family and friends, you can do something really special for them. I'm sure Yasser loves to do that with some of his groups, which is actually doing your own special visits, which is really something really beautiful. And by the way, it's not as expensive as you think it is. I'm sure Yasser could come up with some nice packages where a group of 10, for example, they can open the pyramids. They can go to the pyramids on a special visit. There is no one around at 7 o'clock in the evening, or before the visiting hours or after the visiting hours. The visiting hours are from 8 to 4. So we try to book, if you book it early in advance, we can get a good time, like from 6 to 8 in the morning, for example, but you get the pyramids to yourselves. 10 people, just the pyramids to themselves. They can go inside the Great Pyramid by themselves and enjoy it. Or maybe even during the visiting hours, be in between the bows of the Sphinx, which is something that needs a special permission with a special fee. You can go between the bows of the Sphinx, for example, or visit the workers' village, the workers who build the pyramids in their village, you know, next to the pyramids area. These are all special things. You can do that in every temple, by the way, before the opening hours, like in the Temple of Karnak, Temple of Luxor, all the different temples, even the Valley of the Kings. You can go before or after the visiting times and be there by yourselves. Avoid all the crowds, and it's not very expensive, believe me. Yasser could come up with very good packages for that. It depends, of course. You need to be like 10 or 12, or sometimes I've done it with 1 or 2 people. Depends, of course, who can afford if they can afford that 1 or 2 people, they can. But if it's a group of 10 or 12, believe me, you'll find it quite doable, you know, and it would be something they will talk about for the rest of their lives. We were there in the Valley of the Kings by ourselves. We were there in the Great Pyramid by ourselves. So it is something they will talk about forever, something to tell their grandchildren, you know, remember that trip when we were there by ourselves. It is really something, a memory of a lifetime, definitely. In Aswan is the very African part of Egypt. That is very true, because Egypt, if we try to identify what is Egypt, Egypt is Egypt. Let's put it this way. I'm very proud to be an Egyptian before anything else. I am Egyptian. But what am I after Egyptian? I'm African before being an Arab. Definitely. I'm an Egyptian, African, Arab. So I put Egypt first because we have something very unique, very different. There is nothing like it in the whole world. So definitely we are Egypt. We are Egyptians. But definitely we are part of Africa. We are part of Africa before anything else. And definitely we have a very shared and a very important and a very blood ties with Africa. Because definitely the Nubians were always our gateway to Africa, and we were the gateway of Nubia to the Mediterranean and to the north in general. So definitely we had great ties with Africa, and we were always part of Africa, and Africa was always within Egypt. Like those photos Yasser is showing for one of the Nubian villages, because of course the Nubians, they've made a great sacrifice for the rest of Egypt. When in the 1960s, when the high dam was being built in Aswan, it meant that most of the land of Nubia was flooded. So they had to move the Nubians. First, during the British times in 1902, when they built the Aswan Dam, 1/3 of Nubia was moved already by the time, because they were so close to the Aswan Dam, the British dam. So they moved a lot of the villages. But by 1965, when the Lake Nasser filled up, it meant that almost 300,000 Nubians had to be displaced. 2/3 of them choose to be in Egypt. 1/3 choose to be in the north of Sudan. The Nubians, they were the great, I don't know how to say it. They were really great as keeping they were always part of Egypt, and Egypt was always part of them, because you see, they were known for their special skills. Nubians were great archers, so they were always great part of the Egyptian army. Nubians were known for their speed, so the royal bodyguards of the king were normally Nubians. Actually, the word for police in Egyptian language, Medjai, it's the name of a Nubian tribe. So they were there for keeping the order. You know, the Nubians were used for keeping the order. The Nubians were great archers. They were used in the Egyptian army from the Middle Kingdom. We're talking 2000 BC. We see in the Grand Egyptian Museum, or in the Old Museum, or even in the Nubian Museum in Aswan, we see platoons of Nubian archers marching with the Egyptian army. Nubians were known, of course, for their control of the trade with the rest of Africa. So they were the gateway of Egypt to Africa, so to the riches of Africa. Gold came from Nubia. Nubia, some people believe it means land of gold. So the Nubians were the ones who got gold into Egypt. Nub is gold in Egyptian language. Nubia, land of gold. So it was the land of gold. So they brought a lot of gold, ostrich feather, ostrich eggs, strange animals, exotic animals were brought to Egypt over here through Nubia. The Nubia was known to be two parts. Southern Nubia, which is actually Southern Nubia, or the part that was in Sudan. Those were kind of hostile to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians were hostile to them. But northern Nubians in the south of Egypt were kind of allies to Egypt always, and they were always part of Egypt together, or united with Egypt always. Egyptians kind of had missions to them, kind of religious missions to Nubia. So by time passing, they managed to really Egyptianize the Nubian religious ideas. So they convinced them was Ammon, their god, and there was Ammon of the south in Nubia, there was Ammon of the north in Egypt, and they always convinced the Nubians we are ruling together. And the Nubians were smart enough that later on in the 25th dynasty, about 600 BC, to say it was time for Ammon of the south to rule Ammon of the north, and they ruled Egypt through that. The 25th dynasty were actually Nubian kings of Egypt over here. But always, there were always the Nubian factor in Egyptian history, and the Nubians, many of the kings of Egypt, they carry Nubian features because their mothers were Nubians. We know for sure that King Montuhotep was considered one of the founding fathers of Egypt, one of the kings of the 11th dynasty in the Middle Kingdom, the one who reunited Egypt after it fallen apart from the 7th up to the 10th dynasties. This king definitely had Nubian features, and we know for sure he had 5 Nubian princesses. We found their tomb in front of the temple of Queen Hatshepsut in Luxor, and we found 2 of their coffins are displayed in the old museum in Tahrir, and I think they carry, personally, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful artistic scenes you can see from Egyptian times are done on the coffins of those 2 ladies, Kawit and Ashid, 2 of the Nubian princesses that were married to this king. So you have Nubia. Nubia extended from Aswan all the way to the middle of Sudan. But the Nubia you can visit nowadays, that's another thing, by the way, you can do, is that you can do a Nubian cruise. You can do a cruise from Aswan all the way down to Abu Simbel. My opinion, it's really wonderful, but it's not a very North American thing. It's too much sailing. It's really beautiful, very luxurious, but it could be, I don't know, if you're not very much into sailing, there's not much happening over there, but it's really wonderful as well, because this way you can go to Abu Simbel by boat, because Abu Simbel is a must. Abu Simbel, definitely, if you come to Egypt and you come all this way from America, you must see Abu Simbel. In everyone's opinion, it is the 8th wonder of the world. So you must see Abu Simbel. You can either go by boat if you have the time. It's really wonderful. You get to see some temples which no one has seen, because it's really in the middle of nowhere, so it's only accessible by boat. It's possible to do it by 4x4s, but it's very difficult. But you can get to see some very nice temples and tombs in between Aswan and Abu Simbel. But then the highlight of this cruise, of course, is Abu Simbel itself. Abu Simbel, the 8th wonder of the world, with the magnificent statues of Ramses II in front of it. That is always a must, and that's always a great add-on you add to all the tours coming from the States. After you do the cruise, you must add Abu Simbel to it. This is the part that is the classical Egypt. That is Cairo, Luxor, Aswan, and Abu Simbel added to it. In Cairo, you can do, as we said, the Giza pyramids, the museum, all that. Then you have, to the west of Cairo, you have what was Yasser talking about. You have the opportunity, especially with the Sky Tours, is that you have the opportunity, as they are having something done for the first time, for Americans, where they have actually plane going to Siwa. I was just talking to Yasser before our Zoom meeting. I've done Siwa like 100 times before, but I've done it mainly by bus. It's one hell of a trip. Excuse my French. It's 8 to 10 to 12 hours, depending on the bus and the weather conditions and so on. You get to stop, for lunch in Matruh, about after 5-6 hours driving from Cairo. And then you continue for another 3.5 hours drive all the way there. That's in a very good bus and in very good road conditions, which nowadays the road is actually quite good. But to do it by plane, this is something really different, because it means also that you can have more time. Because if you're American or if you're North America and you're traveling all the way over here, then you have a couple of extra days. To lose 2 days just going and coming back, you have no time to spend in Siwa. But if you have a plane, you can get really to spend 2 nights or 3 nights over there. You really are enjoying them, because you travel in the morning, 1 hour, you're there, and then you spend the days, I mean, it's very relaxing. As you look at the pictures, the photos Yasser was just showing now, it's amazing. It's really in the heart of Sahara Desert. It's not Egypt, it's a Berber land. It's part of North Africa, let's put it this way. It's North Africa. When I'm talking about, this is the part that ties Egypt with, this is, by the way, over here, this is in the heart of the village. Those walls of those houses, I mean, that's the old village. They are built with salt, big chunks of salt from the salt lake in Siwa. They are the ones used for building those houses over here. Alexander the Great went over there, built a temple for the gods over there, because this was one of the most famous centers for the oracle in the world. Siwa was the second most famous centers of oracles after Delphi in Greece. Siwa. So Alexander the Great, when he came to Egypt, he went to visit Siwa, and it's really amazing. The palm trees, your typical image of the oasis, the Hollywood oasis, I mean, the palm trees, the springs, the big lake in the desert. I mean, when you get a chance, you can do a nice safari. I mean, in the desert. I'm talking about 4x4s. Not talking about wild animals. I'm talking about safari, but using jeeps, 4x4s, to go in the desert and enjoy the riding the sand dunes, and then going for a swim maybe in one of the lakes, or in the spring. The palm trees, the hotels over there are different as well, and the whole culture there is different. So it's really something different, very relaxed. It could be a wonderful add-on if someone has got some time and they would like to spend a couple of relaxing days at the end of his trip. That would be wonderful. You can get to see something and then also stay in an oasis and enjoy this wonderful add-on to his trip at the end. If someone is really keen on this idea of being in the desert, they can add also the White Desert. The White Desert that's about 4 hours drive away from Cairo, where it's called the White Desert because actually it is. It used to be under underwater, and that's why when you under the sea, and that's why when you look at it, this was all under the sea. So that's why you see those mushroom shapes. This is all formations from the era when it was all under the sea. So actually, you get a chance to be in that place, which is, you feel really that you are on the moon. You've landed on the moon. And for those adventurous ones, we can actually go there, spend the night under the stars, especially if you choose days which you've got the full moon. You can enjoy it over there. At sunset, we've done it more than once. We play classical music. It's really something that is chilling, really, to be there in the White Desert. That is really also something that you can add on. I'm saying add-ons because I know that someone coming from North America is mainly concerned about doing Egypt, the Egypt that everyone knows about, the Egypt that is Cairo to Nubia, or Cairo to Aswan, the Cairo, Luxor, Aswan, Cairo and Giza with the pyramids and the museum, and then Luxor and Aswan and the temples in between. So all those are add-ons because it's a very nice surprise, especially if you're coming all this way from the States and you have time. So you can do that. You can stay here for 10 days, a couple of weeks, and do all that here, explore all those options over here. Because on the other side, this is all in the Western Desert, talking about Siwa and the White Desert in Bahariya Oasis. These are all in the Western Desert. If you move to the other side of Egypt, to Sinai, that is a complete different story. If someone is spiritual, because believe you me, when I started doing this job, it was all about Sinai, because simply most of our tourists coming from the States, especially, they came for a pilgrimage. They actually went to Israel, and then they came from Israel through our borders, through Taba, and then they came down to visit St. Catherine first, and then came to Cairo for a couple of days, and that was the tour, basically. I'm talking a very long time ago. Maybe some of you were not there. You know, I mean, the 36 years ago when it started, it was basically like that. This is St. Catherine, one of the oldest monasteries in the world. From the current building is almost from the 5th century AD. St. Catherine is a very famous saint. She was the daughter of the Roman king of Alexandria. When she became a Christian, she was martyred, and then after her martyrdom, the monks in that area around St. Catherine, they actually saw her body moved, and they found her body, you know, I mean, on top of the mountain, which they named Mount Catherine or St. Catherine. Actually, why monks were there? Because for a very important reason, because just across the road from Mount Catherine, there is Mount Moses, which is believed that's the area where Moses actually got his the 10 Commandments from there. Because Sinai, according to many people, when they try to understand the Old Testament, they think of the desert of wilderness as the desert of Sinai. And the tabernacle was the Israelites in Sinai. And actually, when they actually stopped in that area, in actually where St. Catherine Village is nowadays, where we're doing, by the way, a grand job now, where we're doing the Holy Family journey, where we are actually doing a whole restoration and trying to make it different and more convenient for tourists in a nice way in St. Catherine. Now, it's a very grand project over there. They have some different eco hotels and nice hotels over there. You can spend a couple of nights because it will give you a chance to see inside that monastery. It is believed in the main church. That's the place where the valley where actually Moses saw God behind the tree, and there is a tree over there. They say that this is the burning bush from which God appeared to Moses and talked to him from behind that burning bush. And Moses got up to the top of the Mount Moses, and he came back. When he came back, he found his people worshiping the cow. And that cow, Moses took, and he actually hit the mountain with it. And actually, up till today, there is a rock in St. Catherine where you go, and people claim that. I'm not saying it is or it is not, but really, you can see a whole print of a cow on the side of the mountain, cut out of the bedrock, you know, and they say that this is where Moses pushed the cow, the golden calf, into the mountain, and it printed, you know, on the side of the mountain over there. So the area of St. Catherine is a big enough valley to have all those thousands and thousands of Israelites waiting in fear for Moses to come back from the midst of the mountains, you know, and he came back with the 10 Commandments from there, and then they left Egypt to the Promised Land. St. Catherine is not only that, it's also the trip itself. It's St. Catherine and talking to the Bedouins over there. For example, the tribe of the Bedouins, which guard St. Catherine up till today, the Sawalha tribe, they are almost 1,500. They've been in guard of the monastery for almost 1,500 years. They are the guards who live over there. It's a Greek Orthodox monastery, by the way. It's really wonderful. It's got some of the oldest the icons in the world during the iconostasis period, when the iconoclastic period, when icons were being destroyed in the world. Inside that monastery, there are some icons which need a special permit to look, and people believe they go back before the 5th century AD during the iconoclastic period. So it's different. You have the Bedouins over there. They are different Bedouins than the ones in the Western Desert. The Western Desert are mainly Berber and Awlad Ali, and this is a tribe that roams around the whole North Africa. In the east, in Sinai, they are mainly Tarabin, who are basically linked to Saudi Arabia and Yemen and so on in that area. Those are the tribes from that area. The last thing I would like to talk about quickly before if I let you, if you got any questions, is actually Alexandria. And I left Alexandria alone because recently I became more and more convinced Alexandria was actually not Egypt. Alexandria was something different. Alexandria was a whole different world. Alexandria was Greek-Roman. Alexandria was not part of Egypt. Alexandria remained a separate part of Egypt away from Egypt for almost 1,000 years. During the Roman times, the Roman ruler was considered the Roman ruler of Alexandria and Egypt. Not Egypt, but Alexandria and Egypt. Alexandria was so important and so famous, it rivaled Rome for a while. And that's why the Romans, as soon as they became powerful enough, they took over it. Alexandria was the gateway to Egypt as well. And Alexandria became a Roman foothold. It actually shined all over the world with the knowledge of Egypt through the Alexandria Library, through the library which was built in the 3rd century BC by Ptolemy II. After Alexander the Great came to Egypt in 331, it was one of his army leaders, Ptolemy I, took over Egypt. Then his son, Ptolemy II, was the one who built the Alexandria Library. And from the library, he built the library and he built the Egyptian and a temple over there, you know what I mean, that was really large enough that it held 400 columns of granite, almost over 15 meters high, each one of them. That was the temple. In Alexandria, it was unbelievable. It was destroyed by the Christians later on, but Alexandria had the library. It had palaces. It was so beautiful. It was marble that people talk about it. Was the light at night. It was shining almost for miles and miles in the sea. And of course, Alexandria, also during the time of Ptolemy II, he built the lighthouse of Alexandria, which became one of the most famous things in the world. And actually, it is one of also of the ancient wonders of the world. Egypt has got 2 wonders: the Great Pyramid in Giza and the Pharos, or the lighthouse, which actually not much is left out of it. But when you go to Alexandria, it's really wonderful. It's a Mediterranean city. You get to see the remains of the lighthouse, or where it was exactly. You get to see a Greek-Roman city. The feel of it is Greek. You get to see Greek-Roman monuments. It's really wonderful. If you're a fish lover, you know what I mean, the fish eater, let's put it this way, seafood eater, you know what I mean, you get to get some amazing seafood dishes. And of course, Yasser can talk more about that. He's from Alexandria initially. But it's really a wonderful city. It's a different trip. You can do it for one night. You can do it for a couple of nights. So that's normally something that is really nice to do as a pre-trip. When you're selling Egypt, that is something nice. If you've got like 10, 15 people, 10 are arriving on a Sunday, and then 2, 3 wants to arrive a couple of nights before, they can do Alexandria for one night before. So I'm trying to set a frame to what you can do. I mean, let's say classically, if you got a tour, the main tour is like they arrive on Saturday night, they start on Sunday, a couple of days at least in Cairo, if not 3 days. Then you go on a cruise for 3, 4 days. That is the main tour. It ends with a visit to Abu Simbel, and then they come back to Cairo, and then they start their own thing from there. Either go back after 8 days or something like that, or if someone has got more time, they can come a couple of nights before and they can do Alexandria first. Then they can join with everyone else when they start the tour. And then also, if someone has got more time, they can add more things at the end. They can add either go to the Western Desert, go to Siwa, for example, as Yasser is saying, he's got a plane going every Thursday, I understand, to Siwa. Or when they are on the cruise, they can end the cruise by going on, because Yasser has got also this idea for next year, for next season, not next year, it's actually starting from this year, from October this year. It's this year, next season, where you can take a plane directly from Luxor to Sharm el-Sheikh. And Sharm el-Sheikh is a couple of hours away drive from St. Catherine. So it's really nice. You get to see the Red Sea, and it's really wonderful. And then you can go and see St. Catherine Monastery for the day and go up on Mount Moses and then come back and spend, 2-3 nights, especially if it's a family with children. They would love to be in Sharm el-Sheikh and spend a couple of nights by the sea over there. So that would be wonderful. So
It's
this
a
is just
exclusive flight from Luxor to Sharm el-Sheikh. We are the only company who do that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying because you were talking to me about that before the beginning of our Zoom meeting.
Dr. Amr, before we finish, a lot of travel advisors and the clients ask about the safety to come to Egypt and spend some day. What you gotta tell them? I want you to answer that. And Jal, you could use also to open your mic to answer the same question. Jal was here with a group in Egypt like 1 week or 10 months ago, 10 days ago. So she can answer also the same questions. Please, Dr.
Amr. Let me say, out of the 36 years I've been doing the tours, I think the Middle East, it's a very fragile place. We've been having a lot of troubles politically. So we've been always people, when they booking Egypt, are you crazy to go to Egypt? But I don't think I've ever met any client or any tourist who's been to Egypt and not saying when he was going back, that it's very safe. All what they were saying, is not true. Because at the end of the day, you must realize we've been always a country welcoming tourists for more than 2,500 years. Because the Greeks were the first tourists coming to Egypt over here, 500 BC. So we've been always welcoming tourists since 500 BC. So the whole country is living on tourism. So politics does not interfere with tourism, because if politics and tourism they mix together, that won't be good. So anyone works in tourism, most of the people who are related to tourism, and that's where you are, in all the times, is very safe. There's no one, because you wouldn't go into political debates with anyone, because there's no need and there's no use for it. And normally you have a very busy schedule, to go out and about and start political debate with anyone. Because I'm sure even in the States, if you go into a political debate between a Democrat and a Republican, that wouldn't end very peacefully, So, but that's the same everywhere in the world. Politics are really a very difficult business to start talking about. And that's why it's always one of the main things that people always say, you don't talk about. You don't talk about religion. You don't discuss someone's religion. You don't discuss sex. You don't discuss politics. Those are the three objects, or the three subjects that you normally don't talk about, with anyone, especially if you're not very, very, very good friends. Because even friends fall over with those things together. But in general, I don't think anyone in my 36 years of experience has been an American, accused of being an American. You're American and your policy is this and that. Wherever you go, the people are welcoming you because they like tourists, they live on tourists, so it's very safe, and they are very welcoming by nature. So people are welcoming. You'll find everyone waving, people nice, talking to you. Of course, in a lot of cases, they are after your money, but also because they are friendly by nature. So I don't think anyone felt threatened, I know our language is very guttural, so when you hear someone, you always feel threatened, but actually that's our language. It's a very guttural language, All Semitic languages are like that, Arabic, Hebrew, Aramic, they all sound very guttural. So it sounds aggressive, but it's not, so, but this is just us. And again, I always say to the people, if you don't find me sitting at the front of the bus, that it's not safe. But I don't think I've ever felt threatened, me or my tourists, wherever we went, anywhere in Egypt. Of course, as long as you are within reason. You don't go to the cemetery area at midnight, and you say, oh, I felt very unsafe. Of course, you're going to feel very unsafe. Unless you're buying drugs at night, you wouldn't go to the middle of the cemetery area over there. So, but if you look at any statistics, you'll find that Cairo is one, and Cairo, that's the big city. Cairo is one of the safest cities all over the world. That's all I have to say about safety.
Dr. Amr, let Jen talk about her group last week. Jan, could you open your microphone, please? Yes.
Yes, it's open. What?
We are talking
So I
about
had
the
a group
safety
of
of Egypt, and you were there with a group of 24 people. So tell us about your experience there.
yes. We had a great experience. I think one thing that prior to going that was a concern, of course, as was just talked about, is the safety issue. But from the minute you land to the minute you leave, there's just that is a non-issue. No one in my group, even the ones that felt a little nervous about coming, felt at any time that they were unsafe. Completely felt comfortable and safe. One thing I think that Yasser does so well is that he and takes care of you from the minute you arrive to the minute you leave. You're never without his help and the help of his team. You're met at the airport. His team takes care of helping you get your visa, even navigating the complicated airport, getting out to the airport. A driver's waiting for you. The driver takes you to your hotel. And from that point forward, you just have not only his assistance and easy access to Yasser, but also his team, and then his guides are amazing. Just the best. And they take you under their wing. They make sure you're completely taken care of. Give excellent tours, but also they really just become your friends. They care about you. They are trying to make sure you feel completely comfortable, that you feel like you're having the best experience. They change things when they need to be changed and fix whatever if the schedule in some way were to get messed up, and they're really good at kind of going, hey, I think this will be a little better if we go here first and then we eat. But they're responsive to client needs, to group needs. Just the whole experience from start to finish is very, very personal, very hands-on, very unique. You don't feel like you're with this inflexible tour group that is just set on just this one sort of way of doing things. They're just very, I guess personal is the best way to describe it. Really kind of a concierge type of experience where you're feeling really taken care of. It's excellent.
Thank you very much, and say hi to Angela.
Yes, sir, can I add something? Because I see Sharon here was asking, is there any way to go through the Suez Canal? Of course, to go through the Suez Canal by boat, unfortunately, it's very complicated for security reasons and so on, for the boats going through and things like that. But what you can do is that if you're going to Sinai, we cross at a certain time where the boats are going through, so you get to see the canal, but you don't sail on it. You don't sail on it. And actually, Yasser and myself, we were talking about how to do something like that. I've done it before. I've sailed through the canal, but it's really wonderful. But that was on a cruise doing Africa. I mean, but to do a sail on the canal itself, up till now, we're still looking into the possibility of that. But you can see the canal. Yes, you can see the canal for sure. As we drive, if you drive to St. Catherine, or actually you can go to Ismailia for the day. But Ismailia, it's one of the cities that was built especially for the digging of the Suez Canal in 1869. And it's really wonderful, but not much to do. Maybe have a nice lunch by the canal. You can do that as well. You can do, if someone is really interested, because I know sometimes I've done it before with British tours who were in the British military camps over there. So they go there for the memories, and we spend the day and we see the Ismailia Museum. We see the house of Ferdinand de Lesseps, the man who built who dug the Suez Canal and dug the Panama Canal as well. His house is still in Ismailia. Which is actually a hotel now. You can have lunch there, and you can have lunch by the canal, see the house, see the museum as well. That is really something to do for a day.
Okay. If anybody need to ask anything before we finish our Zoom meeting today, you could open your microphone and ask me or Mr. Amr or Dr. Amr, whatever you want. Do you have any questions? That means you don't have, or you can't open your mic. I don't know.
Well, they write on the chats. It's okay, Yasser. If they can open their mics, they can write on the chats. It's no problem. But it's been really wonderful, and Yasser and myself have been talking about what to do next. You know, I mean, to help you understand more and try to sell Egypt in a better way. So we'll work something, and Yasser will inform you. You know, I mean, within the coming days of what we're doing next for you to help you. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, everybody.
And I want to tell you something about the extension after Egypt. We still have Jordan, Lebanon, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. A lot of people are wondering how we go to Iraq. But Sharon can tell us in 1 minute, because she was in a farm trip with me in Iraq the last year. And Sharon can tell us how's Iraq in 1 minute. Sharon.
Iraq was wonderful. Again, we felt totally safe. There were 6 of us women. We went all over by bus. People would jump out of their cars to take pictures with us. They were so excited to see us. We saw wonderful, wonderful ancient historic sites. It's wonderful. When I first went to the pyramids, you could wander around them unstopped. And Iraq is in that situation now where they're just developing tourism. And so you can really get close to the sites. And it's really it was a wonderful trip. And the food was wonderful. The people, the food, and the sites, and the wonderful tour guides, I could be more enthusiastic about.
Enjoy. Okay, thank you so much, and see you in the next Zoom meeting on Wednesday, and the subject will be Dr. Amr.
Well, as I see, there are many ladies with us over here, so I think I would love to talk to you next week. And I mean, I'll talk about women in ancient Egypt, and especially in a very special form we'll talk about Hathor, a very important goddess, a goddess of love, beauty, music, joy, and how she's every woman. You know, it's really wonderful. It's a nice subject. It's a very sensitive subject, but it's really beautiful. And I think it would help you to understand how ancient Egyptians saw women and how they valued them, you know, I mean, in a very special way. So I'll do a presentation about that, you know, to help you understand it, and also to help you help single women to travel to Egypt and feel how they were appreciated in ancient Egypt and in modern Egypt, and how safe it is to travel in. I mean, even as a single lady, you know, to Egypt over here with no worries at all.
Okay, thank you very much, and see you next week on Wednesday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.